Don Moody here of handymanreality.com, Edmonton, Alberta. Today I've been hired to come in and install doors and frames in an existing home that, well, put it this way, it's going to be a little interesting. Let's see, maybe we could talk about my choice of doors first. So we have openings like this one here. They would like to put a door in it, and normally I might like that swing to come from this side so that the door goes against the wall. But because this is such a small opening, what I've done is flopped it around so that the door will actually be able to open from this side, and this way up against the doorstop would allow you the most amount of room to be able to get in and out of that closet. So that's kind of my one-off one. By the way, every one of these doors and frames needs to be cut down. Because normally you should have 80 inches of door, so about 83 inches of height, and we just don't really have that. So when I walk through the place and I start to make up my list for my doors, I'm measuring the top and I'm measuring the bottom because sometimes they're different. I'll find a door frame where you can actually see that real easy. This one here, which is going to be probably my next. When you see my two lines here, you'll see they're much further away up at the top and much closer to the edge of the drywall and the edge of the stud further down. That shows that that stud is completely out of level or plumb sort of thing. So I've actually got a bunch of gear here ready for me to install another door. And okay, so we'll stick with, we're picking our doors. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to measure the top, measure the bottom, and then decide, is this door going to swing inwards or is it going to swing outwards, outswing? So this would be an in-swing door with the hinges on the left. Now, I don't screw around with the left hand, right hand stuff. I just simply go hinges on the left sort of thing. One small thing we'll also mention here, in this home, they're going to put in bypass mirrored doors. And you could do this two ways. You could either put in MDF into there or build in a door frame and trim. Or, in my opinion, the less expensive route to go is, well, before you paint it, drywall that entrance, put corner bead on it, and paint it just like everything else, and then just install a bypass door normally. Now, there's another problem with this one. This entrance is only 79 inches tall. When you go to Home Depot to buy, say Home Depot, Lowe's, whichever, to buy yourself a set of mirrored bypass doors, a lot of times you'll find that the rough-in dimension is 81.5. So that's a problem. Thankfully, in Edmonton, we have a custom door manufacturer called Hallmark Doors, located over in the south side, just off 51st Avenue, and I think about 87 or 88th Street. And they'll actually build you for a fair price, a full set of bypass sliding glass doors or non-glass. So, okay, back to the regular doors. This one will be an in-swing, hinges on the left. This door here for the bathroom, of course, you don't want to be walking around the door and in between the vanity when you go into the bathroom. So you want it normal. You want the hinges to be on the right and the swing to be going against the wall. So the door is against the wall when you walk in the room. Now, right beside this, oh, we have a great example here. Right beside this, we didn't really want to put the hinges on this side because then the door would interfere with the entrance of the bedrooms. So the hinges are on the right, but you'll notice this is opposite of a bedroom or a bathroom. This door is an outswing. This door is an outswing door. So essentially, it's an in-swing door spun around. That's as simple as it is. I'm also this time I'm using these easy fasteners for installing these doors. So you'll find along the door frames I've made a couple of lines, and those are so that I can see how things line up with the level, pardon me, with or without the level. If I get lucky, I can actually use the notches on the clips and then just tilt the door frame and to line up the higher clips and the lower clips. How do I tilt the door frame? I use a windbag. So I actually just slide it under the corner of the door itself, because I like to always work with the hinge side. It's the most important. It'll keep everything lined up well. So I use an airbag and I have it lifted for me. I take my, well, my 4-foot level is way over there. I take my, well, if I would have been smart and remembered my 6-foot level, might have been kind of nicer. But I take my 4-foot level and I just push it right up against the edges of the clips, which that one is all the way in at the moment. Turns out once I put the screws in, this is a challenging thing to do, but I push it up against the clips, and the clips align the door for me on my hinge side. You'll notice some of these crazy openings. Look at the top, really, really close. And in the middle, there's a big, wow. And on the other side, same thing. This stuff really doesn't matter because once you go to put trim on it, the trim will be close to 2 inches itself, and it will cover this whole gap, sort of thing. So, let's see. Let's talk about this notching down the doors. We're cutting down all of the door frames. For each one of the door frames, what I've done is I've measured the height of each one of those holes, and I've come up with a happy medium that is about 1/4 of an inch lower than the lowest dimension. Now this is within reason. If you've got 5-6 inches, that's if it's getting crazy dimensions, then you'll need to work something else out. But the idea is that I want all of my, since they already put in the floor, I want all of my door frames to be the exact same height across the top. So when you look down the hallway, all the trims and everything will line up nicely. So these particular doors are getting cut off at the frame at 78 1/2 inches, and the door at 78, including the frame at this moment. Because I'm doing this all with the frame in place first, and then once I've made all my markings and I'm happy with them, I will knock out these pins. I will lift the door up a little bit and just sort of move it so it hangs over the edge here and still sits on the door stops. That'll allow me to take my square and put my square there and draw my line, and then I'll be able to take my skill saw and just cut a straight line up each side, because the bottom of the door will now be up here. Once the sides have been cut and I'm happy with that, then I can actually slide the door down in the frame and have it hang off a bit so that I can cut this strip off. Now when we're talking about this particular strip, this bottom piece you're going to want to salvage. So if you're not cutting off at least 1 inch or 1.5 inches, then take it out first. Otherwise, cut your piece off And then you'll find that this will actually peel apart fairly easily, so that you can salvage this part and then re-glue it back into the bottom of the door up here, which is where the new height will be, and then it will all look like a normal door. One of the things is when you buy these doors pre-hung like this, they come up with a gig like this. So in order to take the door out, I will be chipping off one end of it so that I can slide it out and then lift the door out and move it, lift the door up and move it. And then after, I'll actually be putting it back in place so that when I grab the frame here and here to pick it up and move it, the door stays in place. It doesn't all flop around and stuff like that. You'll find that I've, the clips I was talking about, they're a quick door hanger and a pretty simple system. Again, you always want to pay attention to the hinge side. These guys were pretty smart when they made these. They made little clips, ledges, and they made a hole so that you can actually place it right over top of that screw in the middle of the hinge, and then just screw it in place. You will do 6 of those, 3 on each side. Once your door is all prepared, your pins are put back in, then you'll be able to carry it down to the hole, set it on top of the airbag, with the airbag being a choice, either in the center or to the left sort of thing. The center is probably best, in my opinion. So now one last thing we're going to talk about is we have these openings, such as this one here, which is like a 20-inch opening, so kind of a small opening. And so that means I'm going to end up with a minimum of, or pardon me, a maximum of probably about an 18-inch door. They don't really sell doors in 18 inches, yet you're going to want to match what's called the profile of the door. These ones are called 2-panel smooth. So how we're going to handle that is that what I do is I buy myself a 36-inch bifold door that is 2-panel smooth. And then I will turn around and install these pre-made frames that I will cut down to the correct size. And I bought, they use a different size hinge. So buy the right hinges to go with them, because these use a 3-inch hinge, whereas this door uses a 3.5-inch hinge, and this frame will use a 3-inch hinge. So I will disassemble the bifold door. The only challenge of it is that when it's only 18 inches, the profile is not perfect, because you see the door is 18 inches there, but the profile is not actually centered. You've got 4 inches on that side and you have 2 inches on this side. But hey, in an older home reno, you cannot really make perfect always. So let's talk about these bifold doors that we're turning into swing doors. So we have purchased ourselves a couple of kits from Home Depot, and they're made by Alexandria, and they have some pretty good instructions on the back side, sort of thing. It's nice that they're real wood, sort of thing. So the frame will need to be sized and assembled. Now, if your effort is to match the height of the door handles to match the height of the profiles, then you're going to need to do some measuring. And now, since we normally only cut the bottoms of the doors, and that could change depending on the flooring in the room. So my measurements for this stuff come from the top of the door that is still the manufactured corner. One thing you'll notice about a pre-manufactured door, it actually had a block of wood installed in here for a door handle. Closet door can be done a couple different ways. It can be done with an actual handle, like regular passage door handle, or it can be done with something that's called a ball catch for at the top. My choice for this place, for economics and everything, is the passage door handles are really inexpensive. Buying separate pieces of hardware for an outside handle by itself, and then buying the ball catch setup for the top, which I've had to service a few of those. So I recommended, hey, if you need to do this for economics, just use door handles. So I've already cut and assembled this frame, and I'm continuing on using the quick clips, the door hanger quick clips. You've got to be really careful with this stuff, because you have one side of the frame that has your mortises for your hinges, and by the way, these hinges are a different size than the hinge you see over there. There's a 1/2 inch difference in them. So buy the appropriate hinges for the kit that you get, sort of thing, and just live with that. Now, I'm doing everything for this side of the door. The hinges are on this side of the door, the latch is on this side of the door frame. Because this is going in the front room where I want it to swing towards the right-hand side, out and towards the right-hand side. Everything is on the top. If this was an in-swing door, this would all be flopped the other way, and you would have a cavity just like you have with the bedroom door, where you have that few inches up before the doorstop. So be very careful with this stuff, because there's a lot of, you really got to pay attention, sort of thing, where you're cutting, what you're cutting, stuff like that, especially if you're doing a pair. So what I had done was I started off by making sure that the closet matched the height of the profile here, finding out the distance to the door handle hole, and of course matching the height of my frame, whereas these frames are built a little bit different, because you see there is no little ledge there. I can't remember exactly what you call it, rabbiting or something like that, whereas that is on this. So you're going to be checking the size of the frame that you bought, because this stuff I think is MDF, and the frames I bought are actual wood. And then you're only going to be measuring up to this point for each of the sides, because the top is just going to sit right across it, just like it does right there. Let's see. Of course, you're going to have to cut down your doors, similar to almost exactly to what we were doing with the regular doors. And when I assemble this, I generally use a brad nailer, and I use a square, and you'll find the challenge of making sure you don't get a nail that goes astray, sort of thing. So once this is all done, you're going to be now concerned with the height of the distance between the mortise for the hinge and the top here. I tend to use a combination square for that. I'll include a picture. And what I do is I find out what the first one is. Now you could do this you could prep those doors before you actually assemble this frame, as long as you've got the sides cut to what you want. I generally cut off at the bottom only. This way, again, I have a manufactured top and I have a manufactured distance, sort of thing. So I take my combination square and I find out exactly where this mortise is. And then I go to the door, and I need to make sure the door is going to be 1/8 of an inch down, so it has a little space to actually close into the cavity. So I go to the door, and I'll add a picture in here. I put my combination square so that it has 1/8 of an inch here before I actually slice my line. Now I tend to use a knife for this. You remember I said we can take and use the door frame to actually, the existing door frame, to actually line this stuff up. And I'm already finding that since I'm using a door frame, the manufactured distance is different maybe on this side than it is on the other side, which is a real shame. Pretty darn close. Because really what I'm looking to see here is to see this line lining up with this, and then 1/8 of an inch overhang of this. I'm looking to see more of that, more in line with where my pencil mark is. And then once I take my knife and I cut down that pencil mark, I will leave this in place, and I will keep double checking this as I go down the door and slice for the top of each one of these, so that I can come back afterwards. And Ryobi just makes all kinds of wonderful tools for this crap. Of course, it's residential kind of stuff, right? But this is for routering out these hinges. This is the hinge that matches the door frame. Like I say, when I bought them, I made sure that that was the right hinge, because there is a big difference here. Okay, so these doors have been cut down and the bottoms have been reinserted. That's a lovely little line about the warranty there on the bottom there. A place nobody ever sees. And the painters never really paint. But anyways, I've made sure that because these are outswing doors, my doors are flipped upwards, because my hinges are going to be on the outside, is where they're going to be. This one being the other closet door, this one being the door that's going to go in that hole right there. So the hinges will be on this outside, there and in there, so to speak. So I will need to actually mortise these out. When I bought the kit, this kit came with its own little router bit, and I got an inexpensive router somewhere here. And I just keep the bit in it, sort of thing, because really I don't do that much routering. So I'll be taking this, mounting this to line up this cavity with exactly what I want here, and then I will run my router around it and make my mortise. So I'll be able to put my hinges in here, and I'll actually be able to screw these doors into those frames. You'll notice that I don't have a door stop here, and this would be the door stop. This is a fancy door stop. I cut the door stops afterwards, after at least that the frame's been installed, but preferably after the door has been installed. So this is my take on manufacturing smaller doors than you can normally get easily from a manufacturer without special order. This is a 36-inch bifold that's been disassembled. The screws have been taken out of it. The holes have been filled with some wood glue, and then sanded off with a fancy inexpensive Ryobi sander there. And, So there will be on the inside these marks that will need to be painted. Sealed and painted probably. Of course, I've used again another Ryobi toy. Oops, pardon me, tool. Because it really, if you don't do doors all day long, then you don't really need to spend the $1 million stuff. Thankfully, Ryobi makes a bunch of stuff that will actually cut these holes for you in the right spots. You're going to need to pay attention. Granted, the door handle covers stuff like this, but this is the reason why I run tape down the bottom of the door before I cut them, because I don't want a bunch of shards coming off on the far side, wherever side the blade is pushing against. So I will come back and we'll discuss this again after I've gotten everything completed. This has been Don Moody, handymanreality.com of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, discussing doors and how to manage them. Door installations, pardon me, and how to manage them. Bye-bye now.